Morning, Year 12. I'm saying good morning, but I'm recording this as usual in the evening because I work around my little boy, and that explains the sort of dodgy lighting. I think I need to borrow Amy's light box so that I don't look like I'm filming in a cave. I'm actually sat in front of my fairy lit bookcase with all my lights on, a spotlight there and a spotlight there, and even so it looks like I'm in the dark, so I'm really sorry about the dodgy light. Anyway, you should, if you go to your email box, have your essays whizzed back to you on Naturalism and F.H. Bradley. And you will notice that I haven't really written any comments. I will have just put a number of marks and a grade. And then, just as we do in class, we're going to annotate our essays together. You're going to spot the things that went well, spot the things that perhaps could be improved on, and annotate your essay with all of that info. Now, I don't mind, my lovelies, how you do that. So you might choose to open up your essay in Word and then add comments or type and highlight in a different colour. Or you might want to print your essay off and handwrite this in pen. It's completely up to you. It is important, though, that at some point your annotated essay goes into your folder. And in addition, you update your tracking sheet. So put on your grade and your even better if, and then pick one of your even better ifs to be your next target for your next essay. If I haven't replied to you with your essay, please let me know. The email service keeps crashing because there's so many emails whizzing backwards and forwards. So it's possible that either I have replied and you've not got it, or you've emailed me but I haven't received it. So do let me know. One or two of you do have a very polite email that just says, do your essay. Okay, so you need your essay in front of you. So if you haven't got it, put me on pause and go and grab it. So first of all, these are the what went wells, and we could have had more than 3, but these were the most common things that I saw in essays that made their essays better. So first of all, really good use of key terms, and that was great to see because for lots of us that was a target on this essay. I said to you, there isn't a great deal on Bradley, but he is great for getting in all of those key terms like moral realism, cognitive, objective, universality, synthetic, analytical. All those words could be packed into a Bradley essay. In a moment, you're going to count your key terms and highlight them, but just hang on a moment before you do that. I was also really pleased to see that quite a few of you used our final lesson on Bradley, where we pulled everything together and we looked at the influences on Bradley, and in particular Hegel and idealism and dialectical synthesis, because that's quite hard going stuff. And so if you had that in your essay, that's definitely a what went well. And then finally, something I really liked was where quite a few of you acknowledged how Kant and Bentham/utilitarianism influenced Bradley, but also where he departed from them. So he departed from that idea of duty for duty's sake, and he also disagreed with the individualism of utilitarianism, and in particular Bentham and hedonism, because Bradley is all about the community, but also that idea that you're not really getting to know yourself and your place in society, but it's just all about your pleasure. So pop me on pause and add at least 1 up to 2 what went wells. I would say for the first one, if you've got key terms in each paragraph, that would count as a what went well. So put me on pause and add your what went well. So I have on the screen, I think 17 key terms. I would like you to now put me on pause, grab your essay, and wherever you see one of these key terms for the first time, highlight it. So you don't get 15 points if you've used the word objective 15 times. You just get a point the first time that you use it. So pop me on pause and have a look. How many out of 17 of these words have you used? I don't think anybody has got all 17. So pop me on pause, count up and highlight your key terms. And hopefully there are key terms in each paragraph. So the one that's probably missing, in fact I know it's missing, is behaviourism. And you might remember in that lesson where we were talking about influences and we spoke about the scientific method and basing theories on empirical data and observations of the world. And the psychologists amongst you might recognise that that's very much the background to behaviourism as well, and that idea that you can observe in particular animals and then reach conclusions about their psychology and what's going on in their minds and what influences them. And Bradley is doing or naturalism is doing a similar thing where we're making observations in society and then drawing conclusions about ethics from those observations. But there's an influence of the scientific method on both of those, and so there was a parallel. What I'd like you to do now that you have hopefully given yourself a key term count, is I'd like you to, underneath your essay, do please add and then write down all the key terms that you have got missing. So put me on pause and do that now. So these are the thinkers that you needed in your essay. So just 4: Bradley, Bentham from utilitarianism, Hegel that we've spoken about, and Kant, who we've also spoken about. So again, you're going to put me on pause and then you're going to go through your essays and you're going to highlight where you have name checked these essays, and I would like you to highlight each instance of them, because as well as checking whether you've used them, I would also like to see that Bradley is appearing in each paragraph, and if he isn't, that's something to work on, having Bradley in each paragraph. So go to your essay, highlight your thinkers, any that are missing at the bottom, write please add. So put me on pause and do that now. These are the even better ifs. And there are a few of you that have got A stars, and you might find that these even better ifs don't apply to you. I think that might be the case for 1, maybe 2 of you, and that adding behaviourism in would then become your even better if. So first of all, we have just mentioned this, referencing Bradley, and doing so in the opening paragraph and ideally in every single one. So have a look at the highlighting you have just done, and is Bradley a constant theme in your essay? And if not, why not? He was mentioned in the title. Talk about historical influences, and we're going to have a look at some examples of students either doing this very well or starting to do it, and with a little bit more unpacking it could have been great. So we've spoken in class about Bradley writing in a time when the British class system is very influential and kind of, you know your place. And Bradley, that's what his ethical theory is, isn't it? You look at society and you know what society is expecting you to do, and that's the ethical thing. So that idea of a duty, sort of a duty to society though, not an individual duty. And also that idea of universability, so I can look around my English town and draw conclusions about what is right and wrong, and then I can apply that universally. You can see the influence of British imperialism there, the idea that the British know best. 1 or 2 of you did that really, really well. For some of you, that was something that was missing that I don't think would be too hard to add. And we've spoken about this already, the influence of the scientific method and that idea of coming up with theories that are based on empirical evidence. That's very much en vogue at the time of Bradley's writing. Then refer to philosophical influences, and we have spoken about this already. So idealism and Hegel, and that idea that you can fuse opposing ideas together to produce a complete new set of knowledge. That's dialectical synthesis. So if you didn't refer to Hegel and idealism, that's definitely an even better if that would put you, if done correctly, in sort of band 4 or band 5. Then talking of influences, you can be influenced by someone in not only in agreeing with them but also disagreeing with them. And Bradley is both influenced by Kant and Bentham utilitarianism, but he also has fundamental disagreements with them. And if you're going to get one of those right, get utilitarianism right, because that ethical theory is on our spec. In ethics, we don't really study Kant in his own right. That double up on the revision. Make sure you get that discussion going on between Bradley and Bentham, because you could also use Bradley to critique Bentham when we get to utilitarianism. It's really important that you get key terms right. So some of you used meta-ethics, but your definition wasn't quite right, or it was incredibly slippy. And so I was thinking to myself, you're trying to hide the fact that you don't know what you're writing about. And some of you either didn't use the word normative, or again, I wasn't quite sure that you understood what normative ethics was and how it's different from meta-ethics. It's really important you get those key terms right. And linked with that, don't muddle objective and subjective. Somebody in their essay wrote that an example of a piece of objective information or an objective fact was that Pepsi Cola tastes nicer than Diet Cola. That's subjective, and you don't want to undermine your essays by including things in that are wrong. So put me on pause and record a maximum of 2 even better ifs. So now we're going to have a look at some little snippets from people's essays, and we're going to identify what we think they've done well and perhaps where they could build on what they have done. So this student, and if they want to identify themselves to you, they can do that, is trying to do that historical background that both myself and Mrs. McCarthy talk about, and also how a thinker's life experiences shape their theory. And so this student has identified that Bradley is a middle-class man of his time, might have been better to say what time, influenced by the class system and the British Empire, and then they've got sort of a nice little quote here. Would have been better if they'd have said what that quote actually means. Okay, it's far better, rather than using lots of memorising quotes, just have a feel for what they say and paraphrase and be able to put things in their own words. So I like the fact that they know that the class system and the British Empire is influential on Bradley. They're using Bradley's language, so talking about knowing one's station. That was really, really good to see. However, I think they could have done a little bit more unpacking here. So they could have explained how the social class system has influenced Bradley. So perhaps explaining this quote here, and that idea that the class system is about knowing your place, knowing where you fit in society, knowing about society's expectations. And in a similar fashion, Bradley's ethical theory is all about making observations about what you're expected to do for the good of society. And the British Empire here, again, it would have been good if that would have been linked to the idea of coming up with universal ideas based on observations of British society. If you had, as an even better if, looking at historical influences, you might want to just have a pause. Let me delete all these annotations. Have a pause and have a think to yourself, could I do that in my essay? Or How could I have improved what this student has done? How could I have unpacked their ideas? The next one is looking at influences. So if you had this as your even better if, again, when I finish talking, you might want to pause and have a look at, what could I pinch from this? So this student has done a really, really good job. They've named the influences. So they've got Hegel and Bradley and Kant. I'm not going to patronise you by reading out this section. So if you want to put me on pause and read this first, and then we can maybe do the highlighting together. So they have got Hegel, they've got Bradley, they've got Kant, and they've got Bentham. They've then named theories, so they've spoken about idealism, and they've then spoken about that idea of fusing competing or opposing ideas to produce a new complete knowledge. So dialectical synthesis is mentioned there. They've also spoken about objective ethical statements. So you can see very clearly that the influences in terms of the thinkers and the key concepts are all here. There's an awful lot here in this paragraph. I do like this last line. I do recognise it though. I think this is very reliant on the revision guide. But Bradley therefore attempted to take the best of these ethical theories, which is utilitarianism and Kant and his ideas about duty, and create a fusion of them. Great, nice, simple language to describe quite complex ideas. So if you perhaps were a little light on thinkers, or you didn't really look at the influences on Bradley, again, you might want to pause and read this through again and perhaps ask yourself, what could I take from this essay to improve my own? Next one is using key terms and connectives. So by connectives, we mean things like furthermore, and Eduqas, they love these very, very much, both at GCSE and at A level. And you could use connectives like furthermore, in addition to, moreover. When you're evaluating, sometimes like in contrast is a good one to use. So if you're someone that doesn't naturally use those, some students make a little checklist of them and then they use the same 2 or 3. It doesn't matter if you use the same ones, but they're a good way to show that you are building evidence. But now let's have a look at key terms. So naturalism maintains the idea that all objective morality and moral laws exist independently of human beings. Then they've got cognitivist there, verified and falsified, moral realist. So, in that short-ish paragraph, just looking very quickly, and you might find more, I can find 5 or 6 key terms and ideas. They have then, and this could have been very good, given an example to illustrate. However, they haven't really unpacked and explained that example. And we're going to have a go at doing that together in a moment. But generally speaking, really good use of key terms and connectives. So if your key term count earlier in this lesson was a little low, you might want to have a look here. Is this student using key terms that you didn't manage to use? Modern realist was one that only appeared in 2 or 3 essays. So this is an activity that I have taken from the Hodder revision guides that some of you bought from us at the end of term or that you have already. Quite a few of you used Hitler as an example to illustrate making observations in society to see whether something is ethical or not, and that was well done. They were quite similar, so I'm assuming that you've all got that from either the textbook or the same website, but still, generally speaking, very well done. There's a little activity in the revision guide where they take examples of moral statements and then they give examples of observable facts that support the statement that something is either right or wrong. So, for example, the statement murder is wrong, that could be supported by the observation that murder causes pain and fear. It breaks down family units and stops people playing a role in society. Remember that society and playing a useful role in society is really important to Bradley. And so if your observable facts can be rooted in society, that would be good. Then giving to charity. So I have got as my observable fact, so I'm just here, builds and helps weak community groups, gives people a role to play in society and brings people together. So now I'd like you to put me on pause and you're going to do stealing is wrong and being faithful to your spouse is good. And remember, link your observable facts to things you can see, obviously, but also how does this help you contribute to society? How does it help society to work? Or how does it hinder the functioning of society? So put me on pause and do those now. Right, penultimate activity in this lesson, and you have worked really hard today, Year 12, is these are the key terms that we looked at earlier in this lesson, and you noted down the ones that you didn't have. For some of you, the only one that you've got missing is possibly behaviourism, which has now moved down to the bottom here, look. So I want you to pick up to 4 words that you missed in your essay, and as I said, for some of you it's only going to be behaviourism, so up to 4 words. And I'd like you to add a paragraph to your essay. Has obviously got to be linked to Naturalism and Bradley using your 4 words, up to 4 words that you have got missing. So put me on pause and do that now. And then we're going to do something very similar with our thinkers. Now, those of you who have got A's and A stars and possibly high B's, you might have all of these thinkers already. So check, who did you have missing? Was it Bradley? Was it Bentham? Was it Hegel? Or was it Kant? I'd like you to add a paragraph with your missing thinker. Now, if you have got all of those thinkers, and so you're an AA star person, I would like you to add a paragraph explaining how behaviourism is either influencing, or there are shared themes would be a better way of phrasing it. What are the shared themes between behaviourism and naturalism as expressed by Bradley? So you're either, if you've got one of these thinkers missing, you're adding a paragraph where you're going to explain how your thinker has influenced Bradley. Nobody's got Bradley missing, we can cross that one off. If you have got all of those thinkers, then add a paragraph in which you explain how Bradley and his ideas are similar to those of behaviourism and perhaps how they're showing common influences. Put me on pause and off you go. So we've now finished naturalism. Next essay that we're going to set is going to be a part A and a part B on charisma. But remember, from this essay, you're going to have a target that you're going to carry forward to the next essay. So was it about unpacking and giving examples? Was it about your use of quotes and not just writing the quote out, but explaining how it links to the question? Perhaps you need to work on getting more thinkers into your writing, or perhaps using more key terms. So when you're recording on your target sheet, or your tracker sheet rather, remember you're going to come up with a new target. So is it going to be key terms, thinkers, unpacking ideas, or explaining quotes? Thank you.